Do you have questions about your employment rights? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on CP24.
Hi there, and welcome again to Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. I'm John Scholes, your host, and joining me shortly, Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer from EmploymentLawyer.ca. Right off the top, I always tell you how to contact Lior and his team, always ready for a chat to explain your employment rights, your workplace rights. 1-888-861-4555 is the number. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca through email. Lots of good things to get on the show today. We're going to get rolling. The main topic a little later on is going to be employees and independent contractors. Always has people scratching their head about that topic, but we will cover it and clear that up for you here in just a bit. As we do that every week on the show, we divulge the information, the education about your employment rights, your workplace rights, get rid of some of those myths and misconceptions as well. That's coming up, and a whole bunch of other things too, but we always start off with the week that was, a case of the day, Lior, to get things warmed up. Pal, how are you?
Hey, great to be here. Always a pleasure to talk about employment law. This week I had a lot of people that watched our show contact me wanting to know more about their situation, something that we said triggered something in them, and that's really the name of the game. That's why we're here. We're here to tell you what you need to know about your workplace rights. Options. It really is about options. The law provides us with options. It doesn't tell us necessarily what to do, but the law gives us options. If our employer does something, doesn't do something, if we're facing an ultimatum, if what our employer is trying to do is not legal, we have certain options that the law provides. And on the show, we tell you what those options are, what to do in those situations, and of course, how to deal with losing your job, having your job taken away from you, changes to your job, being mistreated, bullied, harassed, you name it, we cover it on the show so that you know what to do. And of course, if what we say here is of interest to you, if you want to follow up, you want to ask a private question, have a private discussion, of course, you'll have my contact information and my teams throughout the show. But now that we know what to do, let's go ahead and do it. John, let me tell you about a situation that came across my desk over the past number of days. I spoke with a gentleman in a very senior role. He unfortunately had a serious medical condition, and he spoke to his doctor. Doctor says you need to be off work. He applied for disability benefits. In its infinite wisdom, ultimately, the disability insurer decided not to approve him. They denied him. So while he was dealing with that, his employer finds out and says, well, wait a second. You've been denied disability, means you're fine to come back to work, so come back to work. When he didn't, again, doctor says he can't work. His company says, well, we're letting you go then, but we're going to be very nice. Even though you worked for us for 12 years, we're going to offer you a week's pay. Very nice of them. Well, he contacts me. So here's the thing, John. It doesn't matter, and I want all our viewers to understand this. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if you're denied or approved disability benefits. If your doctor says you can't work, that's all that matters with respect to your employer. You can be off as long as you need to, so long as your doctor says you can't work. And it doesn't matter what the insurance company says. If your doctor says you can't work, that's it. Your employer has to give you that time off. They can't fire you. They can't threaten you. They can't say that you resign. Nothing. That could be a human rights violation. Now, with respect to the insurance company, surely they should have paid if the doctor says he can't work. So I'm connecting them with my colleagues at my office that deal with disability issues. We have a team that gets to work with those insurance companies, makes them pay what they have to. But the lesson here and the message from an employment law standpoint is important. If you can't work, get a doctor's note. That's all you need. You can be off for a week, a month, a year, or longer, and your employer, John, can't do anything.
Lior, in addition, as you know, to our TV shows weekly, we do radio shows right across the country, pretty much coast to coast. If you've tuned in, thank you so much for doing so. If not, you'll have an opportunity if you go to EmploymentLawyer.ca, the firm website. There'll be a media page. You can drop down on that, and you'll find a station near you that carries our show, including News Talk 1010 Sundays at 1 p.m. We get some great phone calls because people call in. They want to know the information. They want answers. And we play some of those calls back here, and we talk about them. Our first phone call of the day is coming up right now.
I work for a company that I'm in technical sales, and I've been there for 22 years. We have a manager that he's doing everything in his power to ensure that I don't make my sales target. I have good performance reviews for the past 22 years. And also, they're wanting to do my territory I already have and another full-time territory for the same salary, force me into doing another job.
Well, John, this is clearly to me a situation where a company is trying to push him out. They're trying to create an environment, a situation where he's not comfortable working. By number one, by telling him he's not doing a good job, by putting obstacles in his way, and by telling him he's going to have to do more work but not earn more money. All of those things are not things your employer can do. If your employer is putting obstacles in your ability to do your job, they're changing the terms of employment, they're demanding that you do much more. All that can result in what we call constructive dismissal. By doing that to you, by making your life miserable, by changing your job, by changing how you do your work, it's as if the company has let you go. And if that's what happens, we've talked about options. One of the options you have is to treat that as a termination of your employment and say, no, company, I'm going to leave, but it's not a resignation. You've terminated my employment by doing that. Now you have to pay me my full severance. That's what happened here. So this guy, to me, has been constructively dismissed based on everything he's described. The question now becomes, how much severance is he owed? Well, to do that, of course, our regular viewers have seen us do this before. We're going to use our severance calculator tool, which you can find at EmploymentLawyer.ca. So let's see what our severance calculator tool tells us. So this person is in a sales role. He's been there for 22 years, 61 years of age. Companies constructively dismissed him, so they owe him severance. How much severance? You see on the screen, 20 to 24 months pay. And John, this is without the company letting him go. This is just because it's a constructive dismissal. Same thing with you at home. If you're facing a constructive dismissal, you're owed severance, and check out PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca to see how much you're owed.
All right, we'll grab a quick break right here. When we come back, our main topic for the day, as I mentioned off the top, employees and independent contractors got to clear the air in that regard. As we get into break, I'll give you that contact information again to reach Lior and his team. Phone number 1-888-861-4555. Email is ask@employmentlawyer.ca. Lots more Ask a Lawyers on the way. Stick around. We're coming right back. Okay, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. John Scholes along with Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer at EmploymentLawyer.ca. You can always reach out, have that conversation. You're encouraged to do so, as a matter of fact, to clear up your workplace and employment rights. 1-888-861-4555. Ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. Okay, let's get into this, Lior. Love this topic. Employees, independent contractors, so much misinformation and confusion. We could spend 5 shows talking about this topic, but let's get into this. Point number 1 is this. Many independent contractors may truly be employees despite what the contract or their employer even says, right?
Misclassification. This idea of being misclassified is so common. I see this every single day, John, without exceptions. Individuals that believe that they're independent contractors, but the law considers them to be employees. Remember, it doesn't matter what you believe that you are. It doesn't matter what the company that you work for says that you are. It doesn't matter what piece of paper you've signed. What matters is what the law says that you are. If you look like an employee and act like an employee, you are an employee. And this is important because you have certain rights as an employee, which you don't have as a contractor. And bottom line is, John, the vast majority of people, I'm saying this right now, the majority of people that believe that they're contractors actually are employees. They don't know that, they don't realize that. And God help you, by the way, if you're ever audited by CRA and they determine that you're not a contractor, there could be significant consequences. So that's why this segment is so important, so that we all get this right.
Well, that leads to the second point, that there are ways to determine which one you are, right?
So what doesn't matter, let's start with that, doesn't matter what you sign. Okay, it doesn't matter what how you pay your taxes. It doesn't matter even if you've incorporated and have your own company. What matters is how the relationship looks like between you and the company that you work for. So if you work for one company, you're probably a contractor. If you have steady hours, you're probably a contractor. If you've been doing this for a while with the same company, again, probably a contractor. If they tell you what to do, where to go, and how to do it, probably a contractor. So there's a number of these factors, but I always like to look at it kind of like the old, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck example. If you look like an employee and you act like an employee, you are an employee. And it doesn't matter what you call yourself. If it was as simple as just signing a piece of paper saying you're a contractor, well, everyone would be a contractor. So no, if you have a steady job, you're an employee.
Plus, if you're misclassified, you're also missing out on basic rights, entitlements, and I guess perks, right?
So an employee has several rights: overtime, vacation pay, holiday pay, not to mention severance. Contractor doesn't have those rights. So you're giving up on those rights that you should be having if you've been misclassified. And oftentimes, when do people call me? They call me when they lose their job. And they lose their job, company says, well, you're a contractor, we don't owe you anything. Well, so goodbye, maybe we'll give you, a shake of the hand and $50. But no, that person could be owed as much as 2 years severance. So if you lose your job, you really want to call me, because chances are, even though you may have called yourself and thought that you were a contractor, that the law comes in and says, not so fast, you're an employee and you're owed severance like an employee.
Well, that's the point. They often don't realize that I'm a contractor. I'm living large, but if you do get fired, you're going to miss out on that, right? Having the thought that you are a contractor.
Yeah, it literally could be the difference between 2 years severance and 0. And I've had people contact me after many years of working as a contractor. They were let go, and yeah, they were owed 2 years' pay. Company didn't think they owed them anything. That's why it's important that we understand what you are. And by the way, we mentioned EmploymentLawyer.ca. We have a tool there that allows you to find out if you're a contractor or an employee. You answer a few questions, free and anonymous, and you find out.
If a contractor has a change to their job, several changes possibly, should they be calling you? Is that when they should be calling an employment lawyer?
Yeah, and anytime, listen, here's who doesn't need to call me. If you're truly a contractor, who's a contractor? A contractor is someone that's in business for him or herself.
The plumber.
The plumber that goes from different house to house, client to client to do their job, then that person is a contractor. You know, the electrician. If you have several clients, okay, you're probably a contractor. But if you work for one company, you're an employee generally. And if they do anything to your job, they change your job, they change your compensation. The company may think that they can do that because you're not an employee. But if you've been misclassified, well, no, they can't do that.
EmploymentLawyer.ca. Again, guys, that's the website you want to go to find a radio station pretty much across this country. You can catch Lior and I. And there's other employees, other lawyers of the firm doing our weekly radio thing. Phone calls come in all the time. People want to know stuff. They get answers. Phone call number 2. We'll play it back right now and talk about it.
I was recently assaulted at my work by a coworker. I asked my employer, you got to do something about this. You got to write her up or do something. He failed to do anything about the situation. The office now is more aggressive towards me, scrutinizing my work, and it looks like they're conspiring to dismiss me. 4th year coming up in the insurance sector, mid-40s.
Wow. Yeah, this is really an employer that should know better. So let's break this down. An employer is under a very strict legal obligation to protect you from violence in the workplace, from any dangers in the workplace, and they have to take that seriously. It's not good enough to say, well, you know, we're sure things are going to be okay. That doesn't work. They have to meet that obligation. So if you're being mistreated, bullied, harassed, of course, if there's violence, you have to be able to trust your employer to do something about it. And if their response to that is to try to push you out, well, now that becomes a reprisal as well. You cannot be punished for standing up for your rights. In this case, the rights you're standing up for is your employer dealing with this violence. So you should always feel comfortable and confident to advocate for yourself. You can't be punished for that. And if your employer doesn't take your safety seriously, the law is going to come down very hard on this type of situation. So what I always tell you, if you've tried to resolve it with your employer, you've documented this, your employer is not doing anything, you're in fact being the one pushed and bullied out, you got to give me a call. You got to get me to have you get out of there, get you compensation, damages that you're owed. An employer should always take your safety very, very seriously.
Especially if it's the employer who's doing it. You have no other choice but to call you, right?
If you've tried to resolve it and your employer is not doing it properly and there's no one to talk to, maybe because your employer is the one mistreating you, you have to call me. You can't deal with it internally. We deal with it externally.
Again, those radio shows can be found. EmploymentLawyer.ca is the website you want to go to. Short break. We'll come right back with lots more. Here's that number. Again, anytime, 1-888-861-4555. Email is ask@employmentlawyer.ca. This is Ask a Lawyer right here on CP24. We're coming right back. Okay, Okay, back with more Ask a Lawyer. Thank you so much for sticking through the break. John Scholes here. Lior Samfiru, of course, is our employment lawyer every week from EmploymentLawyer.ca. You can always reach out to Lior and his team. You're encouraged to do so. Number first, 1-888-861-4555. You can also email ask@employmentlawyer.ca and pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. That's the website we keep plugging because it's a beauty. A lot of what we talk about on the show can be found there, including the severance calculator, free and anonymous. So have at her. Use that website anytime you would like. As I mentioned, phone calls, tons across the country on our radio show, which we've been doing for over a decade now, including News Talk 1010, Sundays at 1 p.m. Hope you'll join us. You can call in, ask your questions at that point too. Maybe it'll appear on this show later on, like we're going to get to our third phone call. How about that right now?
A friend of mine has recently been fired from her job. She worked for a really big international company. She wasn't given any reasons for her dismissal. She was under a performance review, but there wasn't any detailing in the performance review itself that had tangibles associated with it. And she was basically walked out of the job and then only gave her 2 weeks. She worked there full-time for a year, and prior to that, she was on contract for a full year as well.
So I think most people that would hear this would say, yeah, this is unfair. She had good performance reviews. There was really nothing wrong that she did. Why should she lose her job? But the thing is this, John, from a legal standpoint, they're allowed to let her go. They just have to pay severance. And I want us to emphasize this to all our viewers. Ultimately, your employer can let you go if they don't have a great reason or for no reason or even without telling you a reason, as long as they pay you severance. What they can't do in this situation is they let her go for what we call for cause, i.e. without severance. Why? Because she really didn't do anything to justify that. So at the end of the day, yes, she can be let go, but she's owed severance. In fact, she's owed a substantial amount of severance. So that's the next question, of course. How much severance? We're going to go back to our free and anonymous tool, the severance calculator, which you can find at pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. And let's see what this person is owed. So she's been there for 2 years. She's a professional, 48 years of age. Company said, we'll give you 2 weeks pay. No, not so fast. Even after only 2 years of employment, she's owed as much as 6 months severance. You see that on the screen, anywhere from 4 to 6 months, not weeks. Months severance. So that's what she's owed here to make this a legal termination. By the way, short service employee, if you work for a few months, you're still owed a substantial amount of severance. Check out pocketemploymentlawyer.ca.
And it was also mentioned international company. It doesn't matter if you're working in Ontario, Canada. It's the laws of the land, right?
Exactly. What matters is where you work. Doesn't matter if the company's headquartered somewhere outside of the country. If you work in Ontario, those are the laws that apply to you.
Live streaming, Lior does a ton of that too. I don't know how he finds time to practice law. Somehow he does it, but he's always on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. They get a ton of questions on the live stream at ST Lawyers if you want to join in, at ST Lawyers. For the day, here comes Lior. Says the company is in the midst of selling and wants me to sign a new employment contract. I've been there 28 years. The contract says if I'm fired, I will only get 12 months pay, but that it won't include commissions or bonus, which is half of my income.
It's a huge deal, and that's exactly why they want him to sign this contract. They want him to sign this contract because it limits his entitlements. Don't do it. And that's what I would be saying to this person. Tell him thank you, but no thanks. I'm not signing this contract. You should never agree to limit your entitlements. Why would you do that? If you sign this and you turn around the next day they let you go, that could cost you literally tens of thousands of dollars. Let's play this out. Let's say he doesn't sign this contract, and he shouldn't, and they let him go in a month. He could easily be looking at 24 months of total compensation, salary and bonuses and commissions, etc. If he signs it, it's going to be only 12 months of just salary, no bonuses, no commissions. That's why you can't sign that. Be very suspicious. Anytime your employer out of the blue wants you to sign a new employment agreement, you should never just agree to do that if you're not sure what it does or whether you should sign it. Let me see a copy. Let me read it and tell you what it does. Chances are it's going to be very problematic for you. And remember, you cannot be punished for refusing to sign.
All right, coming up next, when age plays a role in termination, we'll tackle that after a break. So we'll do that now and come right back with more. So stick with us. Number 1-888-861-4555 and ask@employmentlawyer.ca. This is Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. We're coming back with more. All right, welcome back. This is Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Again, John Scholes, your host every week, and joining me as well every week, Lior Samfiru, employment lawyer from EmploymentLawyer.ca. The number to reach out beyond the half hour of the show, 1-888-861-4555. You can use your email as well, ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. That's where we're going to go right now, Lior. I could barely get through this email when I read it. You're going to love this. It says, I made a small mistake at work. Afterwards, my manager emailed saying that due to my age, these types of mishaps will happen more often. I was let go a week later because they want to go in a different direction. What are my rights?
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't have to answer questions like this, but the reality is it does happen. So let's be very clear here. First of all, your age should never impact your status in the workplace. Your age should never be even a consideration when it comes to losing your job. And it's clear here that this company feels that this person is too old, that they feel that he should lose his job because of his age. That's a human rights violation. That's very, very clear here. There's no other reason or excuse. So this company is doing something illegal. We got rid of mandatory retirement many years ago in this country, so you can work as long as you want. And even if you're struggling with something, well, the company has to accommodate you. They can't punish you for that. And remember, if the company has 3 reasons to let you go, even if one of them is your age, it's already illegal. Again, age discrimination. So I would tell this person to contact me right away. Not only are you owed severance, we know that. By the way, older employees get even more severance than younger employees. But I'm especially concerned here that this person's age is a factor. It clearly is. So you should always remember, you can work as long as you want. No one can force you to retire. No one can force you to resign. No one can tell you you're too old. If they do, the law has no sense of humor when it comes to these things. So keep that in mind.
You still get employers calling you this, thinking they can do this, fire for age. You're 65, out you go.
Yeah, and certainly employers thinking, well, we want to have younger people, and that they feel that that's a good reason to let someone go. Doesn't happen. Can't do that. Completely illegal. And an employer that does that is going to find out just how seriously the law takes it.
And that'll just about be it a wrap for this evening's show. Thank you so much for joining us. More information, cp24.com/askalawyer. Next week, when you've been let go without even realizing it. It does happen. We'll cover that. But to reach out to Lior now that we're ready to wrap up, here's that phone number, 1-888-861-4555. Ask@EmploymentLawyer.ca. And our radio shows can be found through EmploymentLawyer.ca, the media tab, right? Remember I mentioned that? And including right here on News Talk 1010, Sundays at 1 p.m. Make sure you call into that show. Your phone call may appear on a later show. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time right here on Ask a Lawyer.